welcome back to the off season now. We're officially off of Formula One. Because we're fresh out, we do have something kind of interesting to talk about. We're going to talk about prospective drivers for 2025 in the Red Bull seat. So, welcome back to episode 4 of Past the Paddock. I know that there's one of us here who's very knowledgeable and has done a lot of research in this topic.
There is an insane amount of rumors, insane amount of articles about this, because in the past few race weekends, Checo has not done so hot. And every single press he does, they all ask him, like, are you gonna be here next year? Whatever. So of course, naturally, we're all gonna be thinking that he's not gonna have a seat. So we need to go over the contenders, because there's a few. And not surprisingly, because Red Bull just always has so many options here.
He's been very adamant about the fact that he will be in F1 next season, but
He's
still strongly doubt it. I feel like he's like living behind the rows of this
the last
contract he has.
Abu Dhabi. In Abu Dhabi, he was like, "Well, I have a contract, but we'll talk about it." He seemed very like a lot less certain. So I mean, I guess we'll probably see in the next week or so. But Liam and Yuki are the top two contenders, at least allegedly. Of course, this isn't confirmed by them because Christian isn't going to go out and say, "Yeah, well, we're looking at these two drivers specifically." But Liam and Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda are the top two contenders because they're in the RB seat, the junior team. Um, Liam is higher in the competition. If we're kind of ranking it, I would say Liam is the heaviest rumored to replace Checo, and basically everybody thinks that this is unfair because Yuki has been in the seat since 2020. He's been waiting for his chance. There's a lot of opinions. I don't even know. I don't know if Yuki would be the best option because we've seen him with Danny. What was it in one of the cooldown laps during 2024 season in the earlier parts? The team directed Danny to switch spots and go ahead of Yuki. Yuki did not like this. He complained the rest of the race, and the cooldown lap, he almost crashed into Danny because out of anger, he was kind of trying to cut through him and almost crashed. And so there's a lot of anger issues, and Max is known for that. You can't have two drivers that are known for being hotheads in the same seat in a top team. It won't go well, specifically when Max is trying to win another drivers championship and they want to win the constructors.
I think that Liam has shown already that he's not like he has that championship max like kill all, drive the car, get out of my way kind of mentality. But I think that the the issue arises in the fact that we want a good team dynamic and we look at like Oscar and Lando and how they're starting to be equal when it comes like all they pretty much are equal when it comes to skill in the car. Of course, I do have my opinions on that. I think that there are certain discrepancies that make them a little bit different and ahead of each other when it comes to in progression towards a championship. But overall, I think that they're both becoming pretty equal, and we could, if the car is right, see them, fighting for that championship against each other. And that is something that I don't think any team ever really wants. They kind of want an A and B driver. They want a priority driver. Then they want like a sideline support driver. And I feel like that's kind of the dynamic that they've kept with Max and Checo for the longest time. But then you have these two prospects of like Yuki could perform incredibly well in a really good car like a Red Bull. And so could Liam. And that would cause problems not only with maybe both of them would be fighting for the championship, but then you add a double layer of complication onto that when you have Liam's attitude towards racing. Yuki has some fire underneath him, but he's not as openly problematic and causing problems, making a splash like Liam is. So,
Agreed.
would I see the idea that Yuki being a longer term driver and showing that he's capable of performing really well even in a bad car and having that more neutral attitude, maybe possibly even being able to, because it would be his first time really fighting for a championship, being that B driver, I would see Red Bull choosing that as the superior option.
I don't think they'll pick from Yuki and Liam. Like, I know they're both V carb and everything like that, but I think with Liam's attitude of like, I'm going for it, like I'm here to win. It's not about anyone else. Yuki also being a hothead. and not always agreeing with team orders and taking a minute for him to like actually follow through. And with Max, I don't think any of those pairings would work. I think they would pull someone like Isaac Hajar from Formula 2.
Red Bull is not looking for somebody to challenge Max. Like, they don't want that. They want
Mm-mm.
somebody who's going to come into that car and understand that, like, they have to support Max because they don't want to piss Max off. Like, that's their number one. And we know how easy it is to piss him off. So, like, we don't really want to do that. So I do also agree. I think, like, the V-Carb drivers are going to come in and want to fight for championships and try to win. And Red Bull's not going to want that.
I agree with what Layla was saying. I think Yuki'd be the better long-term option. And yeah, Liam, first of all, he like first race back almost, I think it was, he had the issue with Fernando. Then it was Checo specifically. That's the worst because you're having issues with the person you're trying to replace. You almost crash into the car you want to drive next year. But I did see though that Liam Lawson waited, and for both the Fernando situation, and he also apologized to Christian Horner for the incidents. So he waited after the races. He apologized to them. He like took blame for it. That shows character, but I just it's his first like season back. I don't see his mentality being something that they want, which is why I'm kind of confused in how the two V-Carb drivers are so heavily rumored to be in the Red Bull seat. I'm like, how they both have similar to a Max mentality, you know, like they want to. It's like they're kind of selfish, which of course they should be. They're F1 drivers, but you can't be as selfish when you're going into a team that is surrounding themselves around Max Verstappen. Because they're gonna want Max to win the championships. They're gonna want him to do the best he can. The car's built basically around Max. So it's hard to even predict because all the contenders I just don't really see. So,
And
anyways,
Max wouldn't put up with any of their stuff. He'd be like,
absolutely not.
"Get out of my way," because he has the same mentality, and
Yeah.
he's gonna be more aggressive about it. I feel like because, like you said, the car will be built around him. He'll have more time. He's been with the team for so long. Like,
And
I think
yeah.
they're gonna have to bring in someone who's like knowing, like, I'm just here to support Max.
And I feel like statistically though, Yuki's outscored and outqualified Liam, I believe all the races that they've been a team pairing. Yuki scored most of the majority of the points for the team, about like 85 90% probably. But I do also think with the thing being that they're going to be too competitive for Max. I do think that they'll want to be in that seat so bad that they will have some kind of contract agreement being like you can't, like some kind of, you know, like papaya rules type of things, which I would absolutely hate, but you know, I feel like that
Multi
yeah.
21.
I don't feel like that would be something that would happen. I think what that would be is that that person would have to come into the seat knowing that they're playing the long game. When it comes to this position, they're waiting until whenever, which Max could end up being a Fernando Alonso and being in the sport for forever, but I doubt it. He doesn't want to be. He said that before.
Absolutely not.
So
Yeah, he said in several interviews that he's like ready to retire.
Yeah, so that person would have to go in knowing that they're biding their time on the team, getting more points, possibly helping with constructors, helping Red Bull get that title as well. And then eventually when Max leaves, they'll become the veteran driver of Red Bull. They'll become sort of how George is falling into the position of like top driver at Mercedes. That's going to be what it has to be. You'd have to be a George Russell of Red Bull. You'd have to do that and support, even though it's been a little different this season. Overall, over the past seasons, it's been George kind of supporting Lewis. So I think that person, it wouldn't probably be a contract clause because I don't really think that's something that they normally contract, but you'd have to go in knowing that
like more like a informal agreement, not like you sign something, more like you like I feel like they would know anyways. Like it's kind of obvious to everybody. It's not like you have to just write it out in front of them. They'll know. But we could also transition to Franco. Is he more like he was in contention, but everywhere is saying that Franco is basically rejected off. And the majority of these reasons is because he's crashed a lot for like the last few races, but also that Williams allegedly, of course, this is allegedly. This is just from articles online. This is not like confirmed. But Williams apparently has like a loan deal on Franco, or had a loan deal on Franco, where if a team like Red Bull wanted to um like replace Checo or somebody else with Franco, they would have to pay like an insane amount of money, like tens of millions of dollars, to just take Franco for like half of a season. Because a loan deal is when you just temporarily take a driver from a team. You don't fully get the driver. So, and obviously, no teams are really gonna want to do a loan deal. They're not very common for a reason. Um, and basically, Franco is very expensive, and not worth the money. But he would bring in all the sponsors, because Checo, that's like one of Checo's main like add-ins, is that he has so many sponsors. It brings in, basically, it probably pays for Max's like paycheck. So Franco would be the best option in that aspect, but he's just way too much money, and that's basically what's rumored about him. So he's basically fallen off
I agree.
from the contention. And I completely agree with all these posts. So
He came in, he started really well, he was doing really well, and then it just slipped out of his fingers like water. Like it just kind of fell away.
yeah.
And so that kind of thing doesn't look good for other teams.
I feel like the comparison that a lot of people are making is like kind of unfair, being like they don't want him because he crashes a lot. I'm like, okay, but Checo crashes a lot too.
But Alex crashed too, so
Exactly, and like
Max
Franco's
crashed
a
a lot
rookie.
too. That's kind of how it works.
he's just a chill guy.
We know Avi's a Franco connoisseur, so I want to know your take, Avi, on this.
I definitely agree. I feel like Franco would do good, like Katie said. He would be a good like okay, like I'm in full support of being not really a backup, but like being here to support Max. I just feel like people are like, "Oh, Franco doesn't deserve it. He crashed." But I'm also like I feel like he would be so much better if he got the right car and got to really show his like potential. Like he clearly showed it in the season. But unfortunately he did have some crashes. But it's like if he gets the right car, I feel like he can do so well. That's my take.
Agreed.
Anybody else have any takes on this?
This is like I don't obviously know how everything works like behind the scenes, but you also have to think that like Franco was thrown in mid-season, so he doesn't have the same training that like Yuki has, and kind of same with Liam. However, I feel like Liam was being provided for in that aspect.
I know this is just more of a delusional contender, but we have to talk about Daniel Ricciardo. I don't care. There is literally, I scoured the internet for any rumor, and the only thing that came up was just if he was gonna place Checo after Singapore, and that's literally the last article is like September 20th. I was like, okay. So basically, if anybody wants Daniel to be in the seat, I fear
we
that that's
think-
not happening. Probably, I feel Daniel's glowing. Has like retirement glow.
He seems like he's
very
doing
happy.
really good.
Yeah.
I feel like I honestly, I would love to see Daniel in the Red Bull seat. I just don't think it's gonna happen, and I honestly think that might be for the best, because of just all like the issues that he's had with F1 the past few years. I just think it's maybe in the next couple years, maybe, but for
Do we
next year
think-
specifically, I don't think he will be.
Do we think Bottas might be a contender for the Red Bull seat? He keeps saying that he's not like done or whatever, or like he hasn't really confirmed what he's doing for next year. And if it's still up in the air,
Honestly,
he's
I
a
would love that.
veteran. He knows
But
what
I
he's
think he's-
doing. He's used to being like helping out Lewis and everything. So like he would understand his place with Max.
I
Like,
do know that
go.
he did like in fact like he hated like the Red Bull like the Mercedes second seat was just like that was just one of like the worst points in time for him from at least what I've seen. I don't know if he's gonna go back to that, but if that's his only option, he's gonna probably take it. He doesn't seem like he's done with F1. I just don't see it happening. Like I don't know why. I just can't see it becoming a possibility because I've just seen nothing really about it. I just don't think it's like strong enough to come into existence personally.
Just
But
like I
I
don't
would
think
love
Isaac Hadjar is gonna be in Formula One anytime soon.
No.
Yeah, no.
Especially if they don't want someone crashing the car. You can't like just bring an F2 driver up
Well,
and be like,
Isaac, like I kept seeing a bunch of things. If you like saying that if you think Yuki is aggressive or swears all the time. Is just I'm like, you have to listen to Isaac. And I personally do not watch F2. I need to watch it, but I did watch some clips and I was like, yeah. So I agree with this. I do not
Yep.
like I know Isaac was in he was I think he was with Gabrielle Bortoletto. He was
Yeah.
fighting for the championship. But it was his car that like it had some issues with the car, I believe, and that's why he didn't like win. So it wasn't his fault, of course. But I don't see him. I know there was a press conference where he was like, "Oh, I can't really say anything yet." So it seemed very much like he might. I think minimum or no, maximum he'll be in the junior seat in racing bulls. I don't he's definitely not going to Red Bull. Like there's literally like no chance. Potentially one of the like if Liam or Yuki goes to Red Bull, I think that he might go to VCARB, but that's like the only option I see. So
Ideally want somebody that can take over. Valtteri's gonna retire around when Max would too.
yeah,
So
that's a good point.
I think they would rather have somebody younger.
Isaac would probably go to VCARB and then either Liam or Yuki would get promoted.
Mhm.
Or he might become the reserve driver for either team. But
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So I feel like we should all kind of individually say who we think, like the predictions for who's going to be in VCARB/Red Bull next year. Who do you think's going to replace whoever?
I think Yuki Tsunoda. I think we're gonna see him in the Red Bull seat, and if we don't, I'm rioting.
He is testing in Abu Dhabi. He's testing
Yeah.
for Red Bull. So I think that's honestly a good sign for that. So, because I agree with Layla. I think it's going to be Yuki in Red Bull. Or at least I'm hoping for it. So,
I think Yuki. I think he brings a lot of experience, and I think he's matured a lot in the past few years. And I think having a mature teammate like Max could be good for him in a way. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see.
I'm gonna go Yuki. So, but I don't know who would take his spot. It might be Isaac.
I want Yuki. But for some reason, I feel like it's gonna be Liam. Like I don't know. It's like almost like a gut feeling.
I have like a subtle feeling about that too, but though like everybody's going to be rioting. I just know it. It's going to be like
Yeah.
I'm gonna hate it.
yeah,
It's like
Layla's going to
that's
be
like
rioting.
classic Red. Like they would do that.
It's a very Red Bull thing to do. It's Lawson, who's only been in like 2 half seasons, or not even half
Yeah.
seasons for last year. It's glorified. And put him in the Red Bull seat over Yuki, who's been there for like 4 years, 4 or 5 years now. It's a very Red Bull thing to do. I would not be surprised, but I'm hoping Yuki.
I'm gonna say Yuki too. I want it to be Franco, but realistically, I'm gonna go with Yuki.
2024 season debrief. We have to talk
2024
about
season
that.
debrief, as well as
Yes.
a little awards ceremony for our 2024, which you can vote on our Instagram or our TikTok. We're gonna have that up soon, but not just yet. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching or whatever you're doing. I am gonna go, and I'm gonna go take Gabby to my penthouse and freak it, and we will see
It's news
you
time.
next episode. Bye.
Bye.